Hello and howdy, my friends and neighbors. How are you? Last night I watched Cosmopolis for the second time. I saw Cosmopolis in the theater, as I am a giant David Cronenberg fan, and I enjoyed it. I think my initial review, I gave it an 8, possibly a 7. I'm not too sure. I'm going to give it a 7 this time. You know, it's super ambitious, and that's why, you know, I'm giving it a 7, is because it wants to be, you know, something else. It aspires to make a statement. Again, it aspires for greatness. And whether it hits its mark, I'm not entirely sure, but again, I must respect it, and it is absolutely beautiful. Cosmopolis is about a billionaire, a multi-billionaire. I think he talks about losing tens of billions of dollars. So he's, you know, somehow, he's only 28, but he's somehow made over $10 billion. He's basically, actually they have a title for it. What is it? Asset manager. You know, I have no idea what that is, but it's got something to do with finance. He's risking his money, his life savings, in a bet against the Chinese yuan, and basically loses. And this is a chronicling of his last day of life as he knows it. If his life continues after this day, after this film ends, which we're not quite sure if it does, if his life continues on, it will certainly be different. So it's basically the end of his way of life, if not, you know, his actual literal life. So it's basically his last day on Earth. The film takes place, I'd say 95% of the time, in his limousine. You know, a normal person could live in this limousine. It's soundproof, it's bulletproof, it's basically a glamorous tank. It's got, you know, anything you could want in it. So basically the entire film takes place in that limo, with some exceptions. Which I think is cool. I love films that take place in confined places and make it seem big. I did not mind spending an hour and 45 minutes in this limo. It's very dreamlike. It's enigmatic. It's slightly inaccessible. It's brilliantly written. It was produced, written, and directed by David Cronenberg. I think David Cronenberg is one of our foremost filmmakers. I think he's one of the best. He started out in the mid-'70s. He certainly put his stamp on horror. I think he's made some of the best films of recent memory. I love Cronenberg. I think he's definitely an heir to Kubrick. You know, he's never really tried to impersonate anyone. He's got his own visual style, his own tone, and I think no other film feels like a Cronenberg film. I don't know how he does it. Again, that's kind of like that magic that I talk about. He's kind of a magical filmmaker. The writing is the star of the show here, but it's all about the writing. You know, it's what brings it up, and it's what keeps it down. They just have it's constant talking. You know, that's one thing. This billionaire has people stop and see him at his like mobile office, which is this limo. So he picks them up on the side of the road, and they have their various meetings. Now, that's kind of where the dreamlike part comes in, is again, they're always talking. Some people never leave the limo. Some people, you know, never get in the limo. They're just there. At times I kind of thought, are some of these figments of his imagination? Is his mind so complex that he's basically a functioning schizophrenic? I thought that that might be the case. This is adapted from a novel, and apparently the novel is pretty much all inner monologue. And so the challenge was, how do you take a novel that is primarily inner monologue and make it between two characters talking? And I think that that's, they just basically get two characters constantly talking about the subjects that the book hits on. So there's a lot of talking. Therefore there's a lot of acting. And it's all really good acting. But they speak in a different kind of language. You know, it's removed. You know, I think you're supposed to feel like a visitor, like an outsider in this guy's life. And he speaks as such. You know, it's, again, kind of inaccessible, highbrow. Everything sounds really cool. Everything's worded really nicely. Sometimes, though, it gets a little bit much. You know, I giggled a few times because the dialogue is so cool. You know, it's just maybe trying a little bit too hard, but just briefly and only in spots did I giggle. But sometimes, you know, everyone's just too cool for school in this movie. And it, you know, it makes you laugh. It makes you laugh. But again, all the acting is great. The cast is expansive, and luckily I have a list here in front of me. Robert Pattinson, the guy on the box there, from Twilight. This is definitely a great role for him. You know, this really shows his talent. It, you know, as far as I knew, he really wasn't too talented. I haven't seen him in anything other than, I guess, the first two Twilight movies, and then I gave up on that because I thought they were terrible films. And then I did see him in an independent film that I can't remember the name of. I haven't really, I don't even think I've seen it on video. I just went to, it was like a film festival at a theater, and a girl wanted to go to this movie because of Robert Pattinson, and I went, okay. I went to the Robert Pattinson movie, and it was okay. I can remember having troubles with the ending, even though I can't remember the name of the movie. So it's just really kind of a breakthrough for him. I think that he'll earn a lot of respect for this because I think he really carries the film. He's in every single scene, and he's constantly talking, so I think I'm really impressed by him in this film. Also stars. Now, all the rest of the names I read have basically a cameo performance. It's basically a series of duets between Robert Pattinson and another actor. I think there's maybe only one scene that has more than two characters, and then that's just three characters. Okay, so we've got Juliette Binoche, Sarah Gadon, Matthew Amalric, Jay Baruchel, Kevin Durand, Kanan, Emily Hampshire, Samantha Morton, Paul Giamatti. And I guess they're almost pretty much in order there. Well, almost, I'd say. all of those names I just read do a fine job. Again, they just kind of, I won't say it's one note, but they're there for like one specific purpose, and they, do that purpose, serve that purpose, and then, get out of Dodge, and are never seen or heard from again. I'd say all the acting is really good. No one really stands out. Paul Giamatti probably has the largest of these parts. If there is a bad guy in the movie, I guess he's it. Though everyone we meet is at some level of, pretty bad. Well, I don't know. It just seems that they are without a moral compass at some points. Or have just got so much money that they have, elevated themselves above, any societal code. But Paul Giamatti's good. He and Pattinson have a showdown at the end, basically of words and ideas. That's interesting. Again, this film is about words and ideas. It also happens to be gorgeous. It's like hyper neon when it's outside. Well, always. It's kind of like this glossy neon feel. I think it serves the story perfectly. Every, shot is, orchestrated, looks like a painting. The camera doesn't move too much. It basically, is stationary and everything moves around the camera. But, really the frame is composed gorgeously. And everything happens within that. It's very well shot. Again, a gorgeous looking film. And I think it really serves the voice of the film. What it's saying, I said in my first review, I remember saying it, that if someone can tell you what this movie is about after one viewing, they're a liar. Upon second viewing, I can't tell you what it's about, but, I definitely caught some more themes, and that's, money. Is it of any value whatsoever? Does it help in any way with what matters, that being happiness? I think it's about loss and guilt and incompleteness. Again, even though this guy is 28 years old, he's done whatever he's can do to be a multi-billionaire, tens of billions of dollars, and yet he seems, at the end of his rope. What's the point? What is life all about? Which, anyone would say, no matter how much money you have. So I think it's, about, the pointlessness of money, capitalism, the prison of capitalism, and the futility of capitalism. But the futility of money. It's they. Again, there's so much to talk about here. They talk about the future. They talk about the past. They talk about everything. It's always talking. So it's very dense, very layered, very dreamlike. Again, they speak in this language that's, serves the hypnotic nature of the film. Again, it's very focused and a singular work of art. That's what's so impressive about it. Maybe I can't figure it out too much. Maybe it's not saying much at all. But it is gorgeous, and it again has this tone just down. It's mastered. I really enjoyed it. I thought one thing was curious. I remember watching it. I remember enjoying it. Basically, I remembered that David Cronenberg is one of my favorite filmmakers, and I needed to watch it again. But one thing that moved it to the top of my list for me is while figuring out my top 15 of the year of 2012, you know, I get a list from the Motion Picture Academy of Arts and Sciences, AMPAS, who do the Oscars. And so they put out a list of films that are eligible for Best Picture. Basically, films that have been submitted for consideration for the Oscars. This is a list between 300 and 400 films. And I go through this said list and I pick out the films that I've seen. And after I've gone through this list, something didn't feel right. When I was looking at the list I've, you know, wrote down, something didn't feel right. Something felt out of place. And so I cross-checked that with, you know, my vlog here to see what was missing. And it was Cosmopolis. And so that means that David Cronenberg did not submit this film, you know, for consideration in the award season. And I think that's kind of awesome. I think it kind of sucks for Robert Pattinson in a way, because I feel that his performance is very good, and again, he carries this film from beginning to end. So if anyone was going to get recognition, it was going to be him. And I mean, in some hopes, David Cronenberg for writing this monster of a screenplay. You know, I can't even imagine how he wrote this. So I thought that was pretty fucking awesome, that Cronenberg goes, okay, no, you know, I don't want to submit this film for award consideration. Even though that there's nothing stopping it. I mean, it did well at Cannes. It was at least recognized. So I thought that was really cool. So that made me want to watch it again. Even though it did not crack my top 15. As I only rank 9s and 10s. This 7 did not make it, but I still appreciate it. Again, Cronenberg, I think, is a true visionary. Any film he makes is going to be worth seeing, and worth thinking about. So that includes Cosmopolis. I don't really know what else to say. I had a good time watching it again. I would love to be able to memorize some of the monologues, because, again, the language is just so beautiful, but it's also so dense and a little inaccessible. And I guess a little monotonous after a while. But it's okay. Again, I enjoyed it, and I think it's, more importantly, I think it's trying to say something about our life and times. You know, again, it deals with financial collapse. And America is learning all about financial collapse these days. So it's very timely. And yeah, I think kind of had something important to say if you want to take the time to listen. So there's Cosmopolis, and I give it a solid 7. Thank you much.